So I know they get excited when they have over 60 guests. So please welcome Brian, who has the wrong name tag on.
Wow. Okay.
Well, I'm feeling very lawyer. This is how a lawyer feels, huh? Well, good morning, everybody. Happy May 1st, May Day. So from this point forward, we should have beautiful sunshiny skies. The tourists will come and descend upon our city. And we'll have lots and lots of accidents and hopefully So we have John today, who is going to be stepping in and sitting in for Svetlana. And I don't think she's, for whatever reason, she's not getting in. She did text me that last night saying she was going to be getting in, but John is going to be our grammarian for the day. John, what word have you picked out for us to use today?
I have selected germane from the stack.
Germane.
So truly relevant, pertinent to the point.
Relevant. So
Try to incorporate that.
So that germane to the topic. Okay, so May Day.
Just one germane.
All right. We'll get that figured out how to use germane in our words today.
I thought he was one of the Jackson Five.
I'm sorry, what?
Tape.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Brian Norris over there is our table topics for the day. Would you like to tell us a little about what you're going to be doing, or maybe give us a hint?
Well, Mr. Toastmaster, I thought that our topic today was Cinco de Mayo.
It is.
Okay.
We're just kind of moving around.
So I did a little bit of internet research on Cinco de Mayo, and I've got a couple of table topics questions that may sort of be relevant to Cinco de Mayo.
Okay. So we all have Cinco de Mayo. What does Cinco de Mayo mean in Spanish?
Okay.
All right. Thank you very much. And our final today, Shailene.
Yay. Oh, I know, I'm so experienced. I'm gonna use only the cards, and I downloaded the Toastmasters timer app. It's very cool, and I'm gonna use that.
Excellent. And we can find that at Toastmasters.
Yeah, we'll go to your app store and just type in Toastmaster timer. And just download it for free.
Okay.
It's great.
Excellent. Thank you very much. And then our general evaluator today was going to be Dave Kaufman, but we had a change on our schedule on Sunday. And so we have Laura Lee, who's going to be our general evaluator today. So Laura Lee, what do you generally do as an evaluator? That could be germane to your position.
Well, I evaluate the meeting as a whole, and I will say if the flow was well and if everyone was introduced properly, whether or not our evaluators gave a full evaluation or whether they were only positive or only negative. And because we have no one online, I will not have to do anything with technology. So I'll be able to focus this time.
Excellent. Thank you, Laura Lee. Well, we have an amazing speaker lineup today. We have Christina Book, and Christina is going to be doing a speech on her research. It's a research speech from her visionary communication pathway. And she sent me a very interesting introduction that I want to make sure that I give. As her mother would say, she's been dancing since before she was born. I can only imagine the sleepless nights her mom had. Growing up in a home where soccer and dance filled up 4 to 6 days a week, she was always moving and grooving to the beat. She was a youth organizer and dancer for exhibition teams that performed at 6 national square dance conventions and represented the U.S. at 3 international folk festivals between 1999 and 2005. I'm excited to hear about some of those. Today, she's going to share with us a snippet of her experience in traditional and modern square dancing and the research health benefits that one gains from moving with the music. This is a 5 to 7 minute speech, and her evaluator will be Krista Colby. Please help me welcome Christina Book.
Thank you, Mr. Toastmaster and fellow Toastmaster members. Like, what are we? All right. Join hands and circle up, that river goes a-winging. All aboard, it's time to go. Put the ladies back to back, then promenade the outside track now. Get back home and don't pass out. Don't you hear that whistle blow? Riverboat is a traditional square dance singing call that was written in the 1960s. A singing call is a combination of a song and patter commands. I heard this song many times throughout my life from my father, who has been a square dance caller since 1975. Today I want to share with you a little bit about square dancing, its history, and the health benefits that researchers have found. According to the Square Dance History Project, published in November 2017 on SmithsonianMag.com, square dancing was vital for generations of Americans up to the late 1800s. It fell out of favor then, but was revived during World War II, when square dancing was enjoyed by participants numbering in the millions. But where did it come from? Several European dances influenced the formation of square dancing as we know it today. With the settlement of the 13 North American colonies, they brought with them folk and popular dance traditions along with them, ranging from French, Spanish, Scandinavian, and even Scottish. They all make up what we know today as square dancing. My parents met in 1974 at a square dance in which my grandfather was the square dance caller. Funny. Since then, my family has been very involved in the square dance community and committed to stretching the mind and body through complex patterns and social interactions. With their commitment, you could say I was dragged to square dance events 2 to 3 times a week from birth until I was old enough to actually stay at home. But this didn't always keep me home, because I did enjoy dancing. I enjoyed the people that were around us. At the age of 9, I was finally old enough to go through the square dance mainstream class, in which you learn the 51 basic calls and then an additional 27 calls that make up mainstream. There are 3 more levels within the modern square dancing progression. There is plus, advanced, and challenge. Each of these adding more complexity to all of the dance patterns and just making things a little bit harder. I would say that square dancing is like a Rubik's Cube. There are 4 couples in each square, 8 people in the square, and each call or pattern has a specific movement pattern to follow based on the position you are in relation to the other 7 people in the square. This means that any one pattern call can have over 8 variations of movement. My parents and I have seen firsthand the effects of square dancing on our communities. Many young folks might think that square dancing is for old people, but I will tell you that after growing up in it for many, many years, if I was to go to a square dance and try and jump right in, my brain's gonna hurt a little bit. It's complex. And as you have faster music, the calls come faster, your movement has to move faster, and you have to think a little bit faster. So it all makes it a little bit more challenging. I have danced with kids as young as 6 and as old as, well, over 100.
Wow.
The older may move a little bit slower, but I have to say they're a little snappy. In 1953, a square dance caller named Herb Gregerson said, "We do not grow too old to dance. We grow old because we do not dance." The New England Journal of Medicine investigated the effects
leisure activities had on the risk of dementia in elderly. Researchers found that frequent dancing was the only physical activity out of the 9 they studied that appeared to lower participants' risk of dementia considerably. Joe Verhassi, a professor of neurology at the Albert Einstein College of Medicine, said, unlike many other physical activities, dancing also involves significant mental effort and social interactions. Both intellectual and social stimulation had been shown to reduce the risk of getting dementia. To follow that up, in March 2017, a study done at the Colorado State University researched the changes in white matter. The study looked at how the brain aged over time and found a decreasing change in the amount of white matter. The study also found that those who danced actually saw improvement in white matter integrity in the areas of the brain related to memory and processing speed. So it's pretty good for us, right?
Yeah.
With all of this new information in mind, if you like to move, like music, and don't mind getting a little social, then you might look into square dancing at a place near you. As my dad would say, it's just walking, particularly walking in time to music. And then you listen, you problem solve through the patterns, and then you smile and laugh with the people in your group. Square dancing is part of our American melting pot, and it's pretty good for you too. You can check out the next square dance in Corvallis at the Corvallis Squares on May 12th. It starts at 7 p.m. They have rounds until 7:15, and then the actual square dance starts then. They always welcome new people, and they do offer lessons if you're interested in learning all of the different patterns, or you can just go and enjoy the social environment. They dance on 2nd and 4th Saturdays, but they do take summers off, so you better hurry up, get involved, and get dancing. Thank you. Here's my resources and some fun photos.
Excellent.
Aw. Wait, which one are you?
I am in the blue with my hand in some colors.
Square dancing always sounded so fun. I've only done it a couple times. I was in grade school and everybody had to learn how to do it. And so, you know, in grade school as a boy, you're not that excited about going around and dancing with the girls. But yeah, but it always looked like they're having fun. And I don't know if that's just because they're out there going, yeah, and all that kind of stuff, but it seems like they're having a lot of fun.
When I was growing up, as a kid, we lived in the Portland area, and we had a place called the Circle Lake Hoedown, which every week had a television show of square dancing. And before these big people doing it, the kids were doing it beforehand. And a lot of times at the beginning of the show, they'd show the kids dancing. And that was the first time I was ever on TV. I was one of those kids on the Circle Lake Hoedown dancing, square dancing. About 8 years old.
Yes.
My wife and I met in a square dance class.
Did you?
Really?
Wow.
71 University of Utah. We were on the exhibition.
Welcome, Svetlana. I want to make sure that you can hear us.
Thank you. Yes, I can hear you very well. Yes.
Okay, perfect, excellent. And just so you know, we did have a stand-in person for grammarian, so we reassigned that, sorry.
Sorry, next time.
That's next, we'll make sure we get you up for next time. Cinco de Mayo. It always amazes me how many Americans think that Cinco de Mayo is the Mexican independence. I spent some time working in Mexico with UPS, and that was really the first time I was introduced to the fact that the people in Mexico could care less about Cinco de Mayo, other than the fact that they can make some money off of some crazy Americans. that come over and want to go to their bars and drink, especially in Tijuana and those places. But the Cinco de Mayo, for us, what we're actually celebrating is an unlikely victory over the French at the Battle of Puebla on May 5th in 1862. And that it was the General Zaragoza. And that's all it was. It's just a battle that was unlikely that they won. And it's, you know, it's a nice thing to celebrate, but hey, come on. I mean, there's a lot of battles. I mean, do we have, anyway, it doesn't matter, but.
That battle occurred because the French were trying to get away with the treasury because they knew they were losing the war at that point.
Right.
And when the Mexicans caught up with the French, that was the battle.
And they saved the treasure.
Yep.
So I guess that's worth celebrating. So I guess maybe if we would have won at the Alamo, we'd have the Alamo Day or something. But anyway, our next speaker, so we've changed it a little bit. Lakota, just so everybody knows, he sends his greetings. And he says that he's not going to really be probably checking in until this fall. The fire season is in full swing. If you get a chance, take a look at some of his pictures. In fact, I don't know if Laura Lee wants to send a link or something out, maybe on that, or
It's his Facebook.
go to his Facebook. But Laura Lee was showing me some pretty amazing pictures that made me really jealous that I wasn't in Alaska to see some of those views. But yet, at the same time, you know, you got a fire going on, and it's what, 20 degrees. So, but what we're going to do today is, because Dave Kaufman is giving his, he is going to be competing this Saturday for the district level competition to go possibly to his worldwide competition. We're going to have Dave Kaufman do his last time presentation of what he's going to be giving at the district level competition. So Dave Kaufman is going to present half the man he used to be. It is a 5 to 7 minute speech. And rather than having one person doing an evaluation, we're all going to give him some feedback when the time comes. So help me welcome Dave Kaufman, half the man I used to be, half the man I used to be, Dave Kaufman.
Wait a minute. Somebody's missing today. To be honest, I'm not really surprised he's not here. And actually, I'm glad he's not here because I never really liked that person very much anyway. In fact, he's not here today because I got rid of him. I got rid of him so thoroughly that no one will ever see that guy again. Mr. Toastmaster, fellow Toastmasters, and yes, that missing person is my alter ego. That other Dave Kaufman that used to weigh as much as 450 pounds. That guy was so big that he was almost as big around as he was tall. That guy, when he flew on an airplane, had to buy 2 tickets because he literally took up 2 seats on the airplane. These silly looking clothes I'm wearing today were actually his clothes. This size XXXXX shirt and this size 60 waist pants were actually his pants. And these are the underwear he used to wear. But that Dave Kaufman, I'm glad to say, is gone forever. Because the new Dave Kaufman is half the man he used to be. I came here today to tell you about this incredible story, which begins in 1970, when I just gotten out of the military after serving 2 years in Vietnam. I went to the University of Oregon. And after a couple of months there, I developed a reputation for being kind of a surly fellow, kind of antisocial. And the university required me to go for psychological testing to make sure it was going to be safe for me to be around other students. That evaluation determined that I was suffering from chronic depression, which is stemming from my military service. Today, that's known as post-traumatic stress disorder. People deal with these kinds of disorders in different ways. The way that I found that worked best was eating. When I would eat things I liked, that produces endorphins, which makes you feel better. But it's only a temporary sensation. And so to keep it going, you have to eat some more. And I got in the habit of eating to get rid of the depression. I also got in the habit of gaining weight. And at first, it was easy for me to lose the weight. I'd take it off, but never quite as much as I put on in the first place. And then I'd eat it, and gain it again, and then I'd take it off, but not quite as much. This pattern continued for over 40 years. Until 2012, I was over 400 pounds, but at this time I also had a very worn out and very painful hip. I couldn't walk without the aid of a walker, and even that was painful. I knew I had to do something, so I went to see a surgeon to see about getting a hip replacement. And the orthopedic surgeon told me that, yes, you need a hip replacement, but I won't do it on you at your current weight because at your weight, you won't be able to handle the rehabilitation. You need to lose at least 200 pounds. Well, I promptly went out and put on another 40 pounds. Over the next 8 months, I was up to 450 pounds when I found myself in the intensive care ward of a hospital suffering from atrial fibrillation. I'd had a heart attack. I was there for 3 weeks and I had plenty of time to think about what put me there. And I realized that for the last 40-some years, I've been committing suicide with a knife and a spoon, fork and a spoon. And if I really didn't want to die, I had to make a change right now. When I left the hospital determined that I was going to diet and take that weight off, and I was going to get as much exercise as I could with my walker. Over the next 2 years, I managed to lose a total of 38 pounds. Now that's actually really good. But I'm pretty good at math. I could see that it was going to take me another 8 years to lose the weight I needed to lose in order to get my hip replacement. And I didn't think I could stand it that long. So I went to see a bariatric surgeon about weight loss surgery. And he agreed that I'd be a good candidate for it. But first, I had to lose another 38 pounds, 10% of my body weight at the time, to show that I could do their program. I lost that 38 pounds in 6 weeks, and I got the surgery, got the stomach surgery. 6 months later, I was down to 260 pounds, and I went back to the orthopedic surgeon to get my hip replacement. And he rushed me right in, and he got that hip replacement done. When I woke up in the recovery room from that operation, I realized immediately that there's no more pain. I am not hurting anymore. I was up and around that same night, pushing my walker around the hospital, flirting with all the nurses in the lobbies. It was only 30 days after I got out of the hospital, I was able to get rid of that walker. It's now 2 years since I had the hip replacement surgery. And as I take off these clothes today, these old, silly old clown clothes today, I think I know how a butterfly feels as it wiggles out of its cocoon to emerge a totally new creature. A little stripper music, maestro. Just like those old clothes, that old Dave Kaufman is gone forever. Also gone for all the medical issues I had. The atrial fibrillation is gone. There's no more high blood pressure. No more sleep apnea. All of that is behind me now, just like those old clothes. That old Dave Kaufman is gone forever. And the new Dave Kaufman is at 190 pounds, less than half the man he used to be, Mr. Toastmaster.
Nice job. Take just a couple moments to jot down some thoughts for Dave.
I still have to think about those 2 words. I stumble on them every time I roll down my hand.
Yeah, you know, that is a good idea, so that you could, that's a great idea.
Which one?
What's the 2 words?
Chronic depression.
Ah.
So Dave,
They just don't come.
Yeah, I hear
yeah,
you.
Dave's since his stroke, he's had a couple challenges recalling some words. And so that's an excellent idea. I think that's a great thing to tell people. So Dave and I went to his competition here at the division, and he nailed those words. I mean, and he was practicing and practicing to get those couple words, and he nailed them. And then this last time, you had a couple challenges with that word, and so you came up with a strategy. If you put it on your hand as you're looking down, when you get to it, you can have it written right there on your finger, and you can see it like a little. That's a great idea. Good idea.
Well, and you know what? You could even say, I banished it so much from my life, I cannot remember these words. I'm gonna look.
And I even had to write it down so I could say that would be kind of a great way to do that. All right, Madam Timer, can you give us the time?
I can. Christina, you were at 6 minutes, 43 seconds.
Okay.
And Dave, you were at 7 minutes, 9 seconds. And the timing is so germane to a good speech. Toastmasters.
What's that, right? Yeah. I failed to mention that Christina is going to be giving that speech again next week. Part of the pathway is to give a speech, a research speech, get some feedback, implement the feedback in your next speech. So we're going to get to hear again next week. And you'll hear a little bit more of a version with some of the improvements that she's going to be working into her speech. And ideally, Krista, we have our schedules floating around. Are you her evaluator next week?
Right now, I'm just timer. I can switch.
Why don't we make sure we do that so that way we stay consistent with feedback too? Okay. Cinco de Mayo, Battle of Puebla. What a lot of Americans don't know, and this is something that's was a little surprising to me as I was doing some research on this as well. Did you know that Napoleon, because what year did the Battle of Puebla take place? Remember? 1862, very close. 1862. What was also going on in the U.S. in 1860? The Civil War. And Napoleon was trying to make Puebla, one of the reasons he was taking Puebla was he wanted to make that a base of operations for the Confederates. With all that money and that base of operations, a lot of historians say that there could have been a different outcome to the Civil War. Brian, if you can help me welcome Brian up to give us, probably 3 or 4 table topics, and then we'll go into our speech evaluations. Help me welcome Brian. Thank you, Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Hager. Okay. Krista, are you a person who says, wait, what? The Franco-Mexican War? What was that about? And starts researching? Talk about that or stun us with something we don't know.
Wait, what? The Buff War? Growing up, my father was a huge history buff. He still is a huge history buff. And he is an encyclopedia of knowledge that could knock your socks off right now. And as hard as he tried to impart that knowledge on me, I'm going to say I did an excellent job of learning none of it. I don't have a lot of history knowledge I can share. But as an adult now, I so regret that. We used to go to all these sports. I'm from New England. There's so much history. We used to go to battlegrounds of battles I don't remember the names of. We went to forts that I don't remember the names of. All I do remember are the dungeons. Because that's the coolest part, is a tour of dungeon. I would always look forward to that. Or maybe some reenactments, but they always went on a little bit too long, and I said, okay, let's get to the canon. My father is still trying to impart that knowledge on me. He collects antique items. And I know he's told me the names of these multiple times, and I know he's tried to tell me the stories of these multiple times. And this time, when I was in Florida last week, I really tried to learn. And I did learn something. He has a wheel-lock rifle from the 1600s. I don't remember the exact year, but I know it's the 1600s. So I learned something, and I think it's really cool. And so later, I'm going to go, and I'm going to Google that war.
Thank you very much.
Can I throw in a little timer tidbit?
Sure.
Because this super duper cool app gives me, I can choose table topics for the time. I can actually give you green, yellow, and red for your table topic talks.
Wow.
How about that? Is that
Wow.
okay?
Yeah.
Okay, I thought maybe I surprised you. I don't know. Okay. Oh, I've never done that. This time.
I always like the cannons too. I had a chance to go to the National Fire Academy a couple of years ago in Emmitsburg, Maryland, which is just down the road from Gettysburg. So we took a little side trip over to the Gettysburg Battleground, and I sent my daughter a picture of one of the cannons that is reconstructed there. And she texted back, "Did you bring any black powder?" A whole bunch of firefighters, and we are without any way to make this cannon go. Lee, do you celebrate Cinco de Mayo? Or how about another Hallmark holiday?
Hello, Toastmasters. There isn't any Spanish or Mexican blood in my veins. So I don't particularly celebrate Cinco de Mayo. However, this year I will. Because Cinco de Mayo lands on the same day as our loyalty days. So I'm going to go to the parade. And when the flag comes down the street, I'm going to stand up and I'm going to salute the flag, and I am going to enjoy the floats and the marching and everything associated with the Loyalty Days parade. And the Mexican part of it, I'm probably not going to participate because I don't drink their beer. I don't drink anybody's beer. And I don't have a lot of friends that are Hispanic. I have a few, but they don't see it as a holiday. So I enjoy some of their music, I enjoy some of their culture, but it's not particularly my thing. So I'd invite everybody to come to Loyalty Days Parade.
In preparation for this, I checked 4 different websites, and I got 4 different stories regarding Cinco de Mayo. Essentially the same, but not exactly the same. In one, there were 2,000 Mexicans. In one, it said 4,800 Mexicans against 6,000 or 6,500 French. So just a little bit of a warning. Everything on the internet is not necessarily true. Coralie, if you had to give an impromptu talk about Cinco de Mayo, what would you say?
The funny part about that is we actually did have this exact same topic junior year because for some stupid reason my teacher thought it was a great idea to focus 95% of U.S. history as South American history. How that coincides, I have not a clue, other than the fact that they are slightly attached. But we actually, for this presentation, we had to go through and we made poster boards, and it was all colorful, That was not done by me, I'm not political. And we presented to all these little 3-year-olds, and I don't think they heard a word we said. They looked at the colorful pictures, and I think that was about it. And we all had to compete, if you will, for the best points on who could do the best presentation on Cinco de Mayo, and we actually did it on Cinco de Mayo. And honestly, I don't think anyone remembers any of it.
That's all the questions I have there, Jermaine.
Well, thank you.
I thought Jermaine was one of the Jackson.
Yes, yes, yeah. AI.
I think that's Jermaine, part of Lee's heritage.
Yeah. My grandparents came someplace south of Heidelberg. So that's not germane to being German.
President Franklin Roosevelt is the one who actually helped launch Cinco de Mayo into the American psyche. In 1933, he created the Good Neighbor Policy. And that was what us in Latin America. So he helped launch Cinco de Mayo. I think Mazatlan, La Roca, all these Mexican restaurants here love the fact that he did that in 1933.
When are we going to implement that policy?
The Good Neighbor Policy?
Yeah, no.
You mean as well making a border and a wall and yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Staying off of political topics. Let's look at the timers report for our table topics.
Okay, Krista had 1 minute 31 seconds, and Lee was at precisely 1 minute, and Laura Lee was 1 minute 9 seconds.
All right, so all three qualify for the time, and if you can send your votes down to Brian Norris down there to gather the scores there. We will invite Krista up to give her evaluation of Christina's speech. Thank you. I'm not the only deal with There you go.
Yeah. My square dancing story is that we started doing it in 3rd grade when boys were icky.
Yeah.
And we had to do it as part of gym class every year, all the way through my senior year of high school. You know, at some point, boys weren't icky anymore, so that was okay. But I did not understand the history and the cultural significance of it. They lacked in that understanding, that education. So if you had told me you were doing a speech on this, I probably wouldn't have thought it was that interesting, but boy, was I wrong. You made this so excellent. Of course, you opened with a song. I mean, that is just unique and different, and you can sing, so that's wonderful. And that really, I thought, drew people in. The information that you shared, one of the challenges is to have a variety of sources, and you nailed that. They were all very germane to the point. They were peppered throughout. Thought it was fantastic. I really enjoyed how not only engaging you were, but that you also described the dance. So that was a little bit into your speech. You described what it was, and I thought that was important because maybe somebody doesn't know what square dancing is, but you included that. I also thought it was a very motivational speech. By the end of it, that you even threw in how to get involved, and it made me think I want to do that. And you also included why it's important to dance, the positive effect it can have on your brain and longevity. I love the quotes that you had. I wrote down, "We grow old because we do not dance." I love that. That should be a little plaque. As far as improvement, I have no improvements for any of the content of your speech. I thought it was really fantastic, all the things that you put in there, and I can tell you probably got a lot of work into it. I would say watch your hands, which when you make a gesture, which if they were appropriate, is fine, but then they kind of come back here. I'm guilty of that as well. And of course, there were a lot of notes, and it asked me here what I could give you to challenge yourself, and it would be no notes, but I know that's scary and hard. So that would be a big challenge. There were also a few ums, just a couple throughout there. So try to get into the practice of just having a little bit of a silence as you're trying to catch your place. So that was an excellent job, and I really look forward to when you give it again. And I would love to see even fewer notes, because when you're not looking at your notes, you have excellent eye contact. Thank you very much.
Very good feedback. So if we could have some people give some feedback to Dave that would be germane to his speech this Saturday. Does anybody have some notes that they would like to, or some feedback they'd like to give Dave? Ryan?
Dave, it's an excellent speech. It's interesting and it's sort of dramatic. And so it's a good presentation. And that said, you're prepping for competition, so I'm going to pick.
Appreciate that.
A lot of the time at the podium, you were sort of rocking back and forth. I felt like I was on the deck of the ship. So you need to do whatever you can to maybe change the stance or something. And I think in the last 2 times I heard this speech, a little soft L crept into the word endorphins. And so it comes out as endorphins. And I don't want to give you another word that you're going to worry about, but that would be something I'd clean up. Other than that, it's just a great speech. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I'll share something, because one of the things I loved about your speech is that you really have these very distinct shifts in energy. From the beginning, it's really surprising and dynamic, and then to, like image out of energy, it allows a handful of really great shifts. So I would say, notice where those are and make them even a little more dramatic, because the content is there and the feeling is there. Just see what you can do to bump it up a notch. And since you're at 709, cutting just a smidge, I would say, just if you want an idea of where to cut a little bit from, is that last hospital scene. Maybe you could just cut a little bit from that, and then that could get you just a smidge under 7 minutes.
So go straight into flirting with the nurses, which is a good.
Yeah, don't cut that.
And the stripper, I mean,
Yeah.
what a fun, like, you have this very serious, very vulnerable story you're telling, and then I just love the way that you throw in these, you pepper in these spicy things.
And I do like the stripper music.
Yeah.
Maestro.
It's really fun.
That does help. And the last time you did the competition in Eugene, that really brought the house down when you were doing that. And you talked about some stripper music, you know, because people actually commented on that, and they really weren't supposed to, you know, and they talked about that, and because it's not supposed to give you an edge over another speaker, but the Toastmaster actually couldn't help herself. So it really helped.
Well, yeah, and you know, when you think about it, what makes it so memorable is that you're quite unlike a stripper image.
Can I add?
Chippendales. Back when I was at Chippendale.
Can I add one comment? Can I add one comment?
Access to your heart and your impact.
You could say it dashed my goals.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
Well, I initially threw that in just as a filler because I realized I had dead space when I was trying to get the clothes off.
Yeah.
But it's always turned out to be a good comment. People enjoy that. And I'm trying to get back from a serious tone to a lighter tone at the end. So,
And the butterfly's inspirational, and the stripper's fun.
Being the analytical type, I had a little transition that would help when you mentioned that you lost 35 pounds before you went in for the surgery. Me, that was amazing. How'd you do that? So, I know it's going to make the tough speech longer.
I have another version of this that I do for the bariatric center where I go through all that.
Yeah, right.
Right now, I'm just watching time.
Right, but that would have helped me on that, just on that part of it, because.
Just even working with a nutritionist, I managed to lose 35
And I think I've heard you say that the doctor told you after you had the surgery, you'd have to eat a certain way. You just start eating that way beforehand. That maybe
That's what I
5
did.
seconds.
You know,
So,
it takes longer than what you think.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
you know, that-
Yeah.
I'm not really gonna go into the details of that, just because of the
Right.
time. Because
Yeah, you don't wanna go.
Yeah, no.
All right.
I actually had to leave off the stripper part out of one speech, or no, I had to leave off the part about the health issues going away, which I think
Yes.
is important,
Right.
because of the time.
Because of the time.
And so that's, if I get down to the point where I look on press for time, that's the part I'm going
Yes,
And Svetlana has a
Yeah.
point
yes,
too.
I wanted to add one comment as well. The very first time when I heard your speech, David, you kind of impressed me with your prop. I don't know how comfortable you feel with it, but think about it, because one thing is when you just show it with your hands, you know, the size that you were before, but another thing is when you show the prop that was so impressive. So just think about it. And remember, the world champion had a prop which he actually was wearing, but I don't advise you to wear it, to put it on stage, but just show it. It will be very impressive.
underwear.
Yes, and Dave, because Dave came here last night to work and he didn't bring his props. And so when he does go to the competition, he will be wearing those props and pulling out the underwear.
Okay, great. That's good. Good. Good luck.
Thank you.
Okay, let's go to table topics winner.
The table topics winner is Krista. And now to present our prize, Brian Norris.
Poor Jay Lewis.
Thank you.
All right. You know, that Brian Norris keeps getting better looking every day. Let's go to the grammarians report.
All right. So starting with Jermaine, we had wonderful performance there. Only 2 of us didn't say Jermaine. I thought nobody was going to say it for quite a while. There was just one for the majority, and then there was kind of an explosion of Jermaine jumping on the Jermaine train. And then ums and ahs, there were really not very many at all. I was surprised. I think Christina, you won, but it wasn't so it wasn't so many that it was really distracting, or like I was only paying attention because I'm married.
It wasn't the awesome word.
No. And then I really liked your square dancing. It's like Luke's cute. I thought that was cool.
Yes.
And Crystal, like, and then our dungeons. Yeah, that's it. Everyone.
Thank you. And the General Evaluator Award.
We did start on time, but we did get over at the end, so that was just my only point with time. And you did have some great fill-ins, so you did mix business kind of in throughout the whole meeting. So just to remember it all at the front, or write it down, or something. It is a bad habit you have. Yay, running. The other Brian. I did like that you gave 2 options for people to talk about. I think when you're talking about something that people won't necessarily know a lot about, having 2 options is really great, so that, especially if you're new to table topics, you're not like, oh my gosh, I know nothing. Krista, you had really great specific information, and I really liked that you were able to talk about specific words she said, and then to give her general overall feedback. And I really liked that, and I liked your balance for Christina. For the round robin, I I really like doing round robins so that you can get a variety of information. Obviously, no one was specifically working on a sheet, so I'm not going to evaluate the round robins, but you did great. And for John, just remember that the camera is right behind you and they can't see you. So to make sure that you talk out a little bit so that the camera can hear you, even though you are right in front of me.
Thank you.
Well, it wasn't until 2005 that the United States officially recognized Cinco de Mayo, when Congress did a recommendation to President George Bush that we officially recognize Cinco de Mayo, and it became an official holiday on the American calendar. 2005.
Anybody go to work?
Yeah, I was looking at my employees, I was saying, hey, can I get Cinco de Mayo? I said, no, we have Memorial Day. Anyway, but we don't, we work actually on Memorial Day. I will refrain from doing any business, and let Lee take over the rest of the meeting and do the business.
Okay, next week we have several openings. Svetlana, do you want to be grammarian next week?
She's
I think
left with the curtain.
she agreed to that.
Pay no attention to the woman behind the curtain.
Okay, I'm gonna put her in.
Yeah.
We can email her.
And we need somebody for cable topics, timer and general evaluation.
I can do something. I am timer extraordinaire, so.
I can tell you the topics.
Do you have to do other?
Excuse me.
John? You want to do that?
Sure, I can do general evaluation.
Okay. So, timer?
I can do that.
Okay.
Or I can do that, if you're doing something different.
I don't know, I don't know how to
See
do
what
anything
you're
else.
at.
She is the queen of time.
Yeah, I'm happy to try something else.
Okay, I'll do
Okay,
timer.
we'll switch those then.
What do you want me to do?
I should warn everybody that if I win at this level, you're gonna have to hear the speech more than half a dozen times.
John, you're gonna have some big shoes to fill when you take all the time.
Just bring an extra clock.
Okay. That was harder to, anything else that anybody needs to bring up? So, with that, we will